All right, folks, they're back. It's the Malzberg Panel, and we welcome back both the panelists from the previous hour. Peter Morici, Newsmax contributor, economist, and professor at University of Maryland, and, of course, Seton Motley. He is the founder of Less Government. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to be with you.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what we were discussing with Andy McCarthy, and let's start with this this disbanding of the Muslim surveillance unit, to quote unquote, in the NYPD. You know, this was something that was put in place by Ray Kelly, something very successful. When you have a president of the United States who says, my biggest fear is that a nuclear bomb is going to go off in Midtown Manhattan, that same president and his attorney general put pressure on NYPD to disband their program that helped prevent that to this point, there's something really, really wrong, Peter.
Well, it's really unfortunate because the
All right, I don't hear
NYPD
Peter.
has been...
Do you guys hear Peter? All right, let's start with Seton. Seton?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, now I hear Peter. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Good. The earphones are not, the mouthpiece on the earphones are not working.
Okay, sorry about that.
In any case, the NYPD has been very successful, and it's very unfortunate that he did this, but it just indicates that man wants to have centralized control over everything.
Yeah, Seton, you know, here's a guy, Bill de Blasio, who not only got rid of stop and frisk, but, you know, said he would get rid of this. And there was the threat of, well, there already is a Justice Department monitor put over the NYPD. So the whole thing is a mess. But why would you change something that works except for political correctness?
Well, yeah, again, this is an element that's proven itself time and again. You know, not the entire Islamic world, but a large sliver of it has proven itself time and again to be highly problematic. And this is a task force like you have, and you know, a gang task force or anything like that. And to stop it is saying one of two things. One, we've beaten the problem. We don't need it anymore. Or two, as you point out, and in this case, it's certainly true. It's a politically correct move by a guy who is, a mayor who's, let's just say, fairly leftist.
Well, look what he's done
Right.
in defense spending. He's basically shifted resources to Asia. We used to be able to fight 2.5 wars. Now it's 1.5. He's shifted resources to Asia, and he's basically put us in a position in Europe where he assumed the problem was gone, that the Soviets, the Russians were now our friends. And then it turns out that they're not, and he can't respond. Now, what he's doing is setting up the next president. You know, the erosion of power, the erosion of the ability to do things, it happens slowly. But then you get to the point, as Bill Clinton did to George Bush, that the president is vulnerable. The president is not keeping his word. He's not keeping his oath. He's not doing what's necessary to defend the interests of liberty and the United States of America. And this is another example. Why? That unit is unpopular politically in New York. And the only thing that matters to Barack Obama is his grasp on power. Little does he care about the health of the economy or about the security of the American people. If he gave a tinker's damn about the security of Americans, those 5 Americans at Benghazi would be alive today because his State Department would have responded to their repeated requests for help.
Yeah, Seton, you know, bringing it back to this for one more moment here, I got to feel that, you know, if this were, you know, if this were just a program that surveilled looking for organized crime or the so-called, you know, the mafia, whatever you want to call it, as they've done in the past, or if this was a unit looking out for those dangerous returning veterans or those dangerous Tea Partiers or those dangerous, you know, right-wing militia people, they'd have no problem with the targeting of those groups. But you know, you can't target the Islamic community.
Yeah, well, again.
And by the way, when I say that, when I say target the Islamic community, I mean looking for the groups or the people that might be problematic.
Right. There was a great line from Toby Ziegler in West Wing. I don't remember having to take every Italian out for an ice cream cone when we were going after Mussolini. you know, we shouldn't have to qualify it every time we say, you know, Islam.
It always comes back to Mussolini, Seton and
Yes,
Peter. It always
yes,
comes
yes.
back to Mussolini.
But
Yeah,
you
but
know,
with this president,
we weren't
sorry.
going after every German when we were dealing with Hitler and the Nazis. We weren't going after every Italian when we were going after Mussolini. We're not going after every Muslim when we deal with the jihadists, the Islamists in their midst. So,
Basically,
but in the age of
with
political
this-
correctness, we have to. It's like Seinfeld. He's gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So yeah, again, if this were a mafia task force, a gangland task force, there'd be no reason to shut it down unless and until you could demonstrate, hey, it's gone. The problem is gone. We've eradicated completely the problem, and we don't need this anymore. And at the very,
Right.
you know, that's clearly not what's happening here, because you would see a gradual tapering of the effort. You know, as you eradicated the problem, it doesn't go from 60 miles an hour to 0, 60 to 50,
Right.
50 to 40. And we didn't see that here. We just see him flipping the light switch and turning it all off at once.
Peter?
with this guy as president of the United States, for every Muslim that comes through from the Middle East at the airport that gets searched, one 78-year-old grandmother has to get searched. For every minority youth that's 23 years old that gets stopped by the police in Manhattan, a 78-year-old Irish American female has to be stopped. It's all done by the numbers. And as a consequence, it greatly dilutes law enforcement and it greatly dilutes national security. But
I mean,
then
it
again,
sounds
as I said in the last segment, he's learning a lot from Mr. Putin.
And it sounds a lot like your college admissions process at Maryland, Peter.
Oh, you know, I just did a piece with a feminist about the Fair Paycheck Act. And I said, if you're going to make the University of Maryland pay the women professors exactly what they pay the men professors, are you also willing to compel them to give men as many degrees as you give women? Because women are getting 60% of the diplomas nationwide. She wasn't very interested in that concept at all. She didn't pick up on that one.
Not surprised. You talked about you talked a little bit about something that I want to get into here. You talked about the numbers and deceiving numbers. Here we have a situation where Peter Bergen, CNN, goes on the anniversary of the bombing in Boston and touts these numbers, these figures, that we have more to fear based on the number of people who have been killed by Islamic terrorists compared to what he calls right-wing terrorists in this country. And of course, conveniently, guys, as I mentioned with Andy, he leaves out the 9/11 attacks in this report. So he's citing numbers after that. I have no confidence in Peter Bergen. I really haven't for a long, long time. To me, he sides a lot with the Islamists.
Well, but it also depends on again, beyond just 9/11, President Obama still hasn't classified Fort Hood Round 1 as a terrorist attack. It was workplace violence.
Right.
So
Well,
you can say we're outnumbered, you know, right-wing extremists targeted more than Islamists. If you don't count any Islamist attacks as Islamist attacks, I mean, that's pretty simple to do.
Peter, final
Well,
word.
you also
Go ahead.
you have to watch out for CNN. I'll tell you a story about CNN. I used to do Ali Velchi's show, Your Money, quite a bit. And one day, his booker saw me on the set with Jerry Willis at Fox. And during a break,
You know
I
what?
got a
You know
text.
what? Yeah, Peter, this is going to have to be the tease of all teases for next time we convene you on the panel, because I'm out of time. Hard break, but I do want to hear that. So we'll get it to it next time, I promise. So thanks, guys. Peter Morici, Seton Motley. We'll speak to you next time. And coming up next, Nicole Wallace will join us. You watch her on Morning Joe, former communications chief for George W. Bush, senior advisor for McCain-Palin. When we come back, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.
We don't just talk about the news, we talk to those making news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.